Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Royal Forces part owner John Kennett. Well, they say that often the best gifts come in small packages, ladies and gentlemen, and that certainly could be said about that pit pony powerhouse of the 1970s, John, and what a thrill it must have been for you and your dad.
It certainly was. It was something that I'm sure Dad never ever dreamed of, and I certainly didn't. But he was actually absolutely ecstatic when he found out that he had something that looked like might be going to be all right. And yeah, it's all history from that point on, sort of thing, Darren.
You know, I was about 11 years of age, I think, when I first caught a glimpse of Royal Force, and he was one of the very first standardbreds that really captured my imagination. He was that flashy black horse, looked stunning in harness, and of course he had those beautiful bright orange racing colours which just drew you to him immediately, a breathtaking turn of foot as well. And the little horse stirred the imaginations of a lot of people.
He certainly did. He was very popular amongst the crowds at Gloucester Park and Fremantle in those times, and the crowds you got there, as you've seen tonight on the screen up here, certainly beggars belief to what it is these days.
They had to shoehorn them in.
That's right, yep, and it was absolutely amazing to go there on a night like that and see such crowd and the applause he got every time he raced.
Johnny, what was it that attracted your dad George to outlaying $2,100? Now, it was a bit of money at the time for a standardbred. It's not a lot of money by today's terms, of course, but it was a fair expense, a great outlay. He was only 14 hands high,
Yep.
barely, and you wouldn't exactly say that he had a blue blood pedigree.
No, well, Dad had a horse, Lord Glenferrin, which was the same bloodline, or the same sire, and he was quite taken with him, and he used to go through all the catalogues from Melbourne. He'd sit there for hours at night just going through them, and he picked out this one, and he thought, well, I think that might be all right. And he rang, I can't think who it was, he rang in Melbourne and said to the chap, would you go and have a bid on this horse for me? And he told him, go to $2,000, no more. And this chap rang back that night and said, I've had to go a bit higher than that. And Dad thought, oh, bloody hell. Anyway, as it turned out, he said, oh, it's only $100, and it secured him. So that's how we actually come by him.
The best $100 the old man ever spent.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yep, it was. Dad was really elated when it turned the way it did. But when he first arrived, he came over with McLarty's to their yard there in Belmont, I think it was.
Yeah, down in Ascot.
Yep, Ascot there. Dad had to go and pick him up from Wagen with a float. When he got down there, he thought, oh my God, I've done me money here. Look at the size of the thing. It's like a Shetland pony. Anyway, he got home and we sorted it out and got things going, and that, again, there's history from there on.
Pretty humble beginnings, really. His first win was at Williams.
Yes.
Hardly a mecca for harness racing.
That's right.
When did
Daytime
George?
meetings.
Yeah, daytimes. That's exactly right. When did George think that this bloke might be a little bit handier than the others and might have to carry a few that he was training as well?
Well, he did. He did that too, Darren. Yes. Well, Dad used to work him all the time. He worked. I worked him a couple of times, but Dad, he did it sort of thing. And he used to go to trials and that in Wagen, and we thought, oh, this thing might be all right. I think it took him 6 starts before he actually got a win there at Williams. But yeah, he was quite impressed with him after he did get going. I think he changed his tune a bit there on the size of him and everything when he first saw him, Darren.
It wasn't that long and he was all of a sudden a Derby winner. So it was a rapid sort of progression, wasn't it, in that 3-year-old?
Yes. Yeah, he won at Williams, and then from memory it was only a couple of weeks, I think, and it went into the sires and then the Derby from there, I think, from memory.
Yeah, phenomenal 3-year-old preparation it was. John, you'd love to have $1 for every kilometre that the horse travelled. 7 times he stood on a float, crossed the Nullarbor and back to either South Australia, Victoria or New South Wales. Now, they do it a little bit easier these days.
Yep. Yeah, Dad was never keen on flying, and he would never put the horse on and fly him over. So the first time he went over there was with McLarty's again, and he went to, I think it was Melton, I think he went then, to Bernie and Sheila Youngerblood stud over there. And while he was there, Dad bought a float over there, and he floated him back himself on his own. And he went backs and forwards a few times across there after that in the float. Dad floated him himself, and on several occasions it was by himself all the time, just over and back. Yep.
One of those trips was to Sydney to contest the 1977 Miracle Mile,
Yes.
the most prestigious sprint in Australasian harness racing. And of course, he was successful over there. You unfortunately couldn't make the trip, as I recall, but you watched it at Gloucester Park, so it came in live, and it wasn't happening a lot live television coverage in those days.
No, that's right. Dad was over there, him and Mum went over, and Buff flew over. And I had to stay home to look after things on the farm.
Now, Buff's Dudley Anderson,
Dudley
the great
Anderson,
farrier and
yep,
reinsman.
Yep, Dudley
Yep.
Anderson, that's him, yep. And yes, where were we at, Darren? I
Well,
lost
what was the
track,
feeling
mate.
like at Gloucester Park? I mean, he was there at Harold Park, he
Yep.
stormed home, won the Miracle Mile. You were there in the bookmakers' ring watching on the television. What was the atmosphere like with the
It
West Aussie with him?
It was unbelievable to be there because there wasn't many tellies from memory around the park, Gloucester Park there, and there was one, I think, at the bookies, and I went there and watched it, and I couldn't believe it when he actually won, and the people around it were just like a normal race night at Gloucester Park. They were that elated, and that a West Australian, and especially him, had won it, I think.
You obviously would have been getting plenty of backslapping. Who was one of the first phone calls that you took, John?
That was our Rural and Industries bank manager. He used to come out and see us, and we got on quite well with him. But yeah, he was the first one to actually ring up and congratulate us on winning, and he said, I hope you put all that money in this bank here. So yeah.
What a good PR man he was for the old R&I Bank.
That's
hey?
right, yep.
Look, it was a great occasion. That was obviously one of his great wins. Was the other great win there, and we just saw that a few moments ago in the package of highlights, getting over the top of Pure Steel that night. No mean feat.
No, that's for sure. He was a real good horse, Pure Steel, but it was a good night that night we beat him, I can tell you. But no, it was all in all, it was a real exciting night, that one, to think that actually happened, yeah.
When Brittany was speaking with Maureen about horses' quirks, foibles, just their sort of demeanour, when did you know? Was there a sign here when Royal Force was on?
Yes, there was, Darren. When he was racing, you probably noticed in the prelude there, he'd have that tail up and give it a bit of a flick. Yep. And if he was back in the field a bit, which he usually was back a bit, and he had that sprint, which he had that was his, what you call it, the way he's going to go sort of bizzo. And down the back straight, he'd flick that tail up, and he'd give it a couple of flicks like this, and you knew damn well that he was going real well and going to finish on, as we saw there in the trailer there.
Yeah, tonight was the night, that's
Yep.
for sure and certain. He became a pretty handy sire too when he eventually was retired
Yes.
after a glittering career on the racetrack, and he did a pretty good job too. One of the star horses when I happened to be broadcasting harness racing was one of his sons, Sinn Féin, who
That's
won a
right.
Golden Nugget.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, he won the Golden Nugget, and he won 2 Northern Cups, pacing cups up there, and I think he was the winner of, I think was it 21 races, I think, something like that, Darren. I think
Yeah, he won over $250,000,
Yeah,
and that was a lot of money for a harness
$250,000,
horse
which-
back
yeah,
in the
that's right,
day, that's
yeah.
for sure.
I think he sired something over east and home here, something like 81 winners. That one race sort of thing from him, yeah.
He finished up standing at stud in Victoria,
Yes.
not dissimilar to Mount Eden.
That's exactly right. He went to Steeple Park Stud, which is over by Shepparton, people by the name of John and Margaret O'Brien, and I've actually been in contact with them and told them that this is on tonight, and they were elated with that as well.
Fantastic.
But yes, they had the Steeple Park Stud. He had it on one place, and he had Mount Eden was at his place as well. Mount Eden is buried on one of his stud properties, and he sold that property and he shifted on about another 20 or so kilometres further away, and still the same stud it was called, and Royal Force is there and buried on that site. We did see it there a few years ago, we were over and saw his burial site.
How appropriate.
Yep.
Two of the all-time greats of WA harness racing laid to rest not far
Yes.
from each other. Well, he certainly stirred the imagination, Royal Force, of many during his 110-start career. None more so than this kid from Kalgoorlie too, John, I don't mind saying, but it seems like only yesterday that he was out there and just letting go with that wonderful turn of foot, that brilliant barnstorming finish, and we remember him so fondly. Thank you for sharing your memories of Royal Force with us here this evening.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Darren. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, mate.
And also, congratulations to all those that have been before me tonight and those that are still coming. Congratulations to you all, and thank you to the committee and all for nominating him in the first place. This is a very pleasurable night, and my mum and dad would be absolutely ecstatic with this happening. Thank you very much,
Well
everybody.
done, mate. You'd be very proud.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you for your kind words, John. Please thank John Kennett, everyone, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the WA Racing Hall of Fame, the Great Royal Force.